right, welcome back to another episode of Side Note, the podcast dedicated to underground electronic music and all things related. I am your host, Nick, and it is a great pleasure today to introduce to you guys DJ Techno extraordinaire, Orly Gal.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on. I like to start off most interviews by just kind of asking my guests, what was the last event they did and what was the scene there, and to kind of describe it.
That I played?
Yeah, so we can get a sense of what it's like to be a local DJ extraordinaire.
A crazy month. To be honest with you, I've been in the studio most of the time. I'm finishing an EP.
Okay.
Last show I played Halloween. I remember that. I think I had another show after that. A couple of them. Okay. I came back from touring, went to a crazy wedding, and then the next day I got a call, and it was actually like a last minute, can you please? And then I did.
Okay.
And it was insane. Usually those types of shows, that you're just like hanging by a thread.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I thrive in that environment. It was great. It was so much good energy and people. And
was that here in LA or somewhere else?
It was in LA. Yeah,
Okay.
It was downtown. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a great show.
So you actually tour, which is kind of like a level above a lot of the kind of newcomers that I interview. So it's great to kind of get your insight. I mean, I guess like what are some of the things that are remarkable about touring that someone like me wouldn't even think about?
Ooh, remarkable. Well, I mean, there's a lot of sides to touring, really good and sometimes challenging, I think a lot of people don't think about the fact that when you are traveling like that, you get picked up, you get dropped off in a hotel room, and you're all lonesome, you know? You go out to dinner, you play an incredible show, and then you come back home and you're like twiddling your thumbs,
right,
wondering what you're going to do with yourself, and then on a plane, and then on to the next one.
Right.
So there's a lot of ups and downs. So I don't think everybody thinks it's like, oh, rock star.
Right.
But then level out.
There was a series that Resident Advisor did. I think it was called like Behind the Music or something, where they followed around a bunch of DJs on their touring. Mm-hmm. And there's one that stuck out to me. It was with Nina Kravitz. And she talks about how, what people don't think about is how much of the experience of being a touring DJ only the DJ experiences. Like there's so many moments that's just theirs. And it's like, she talks about how she wishes that she could share some of this stuff with somebody else, but part of the deal is you're traveling by yourself from place to place. And I'm sure you can probably relate with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like, of course you're on the phone with people. I try to connect with as many local people as I can wherever I go, because I want to explore. Like if I have 5 minutes, I would go and explore the city, the culture, the food,
mm-hmm.
and try and connect to that local scene, because it's super important to me. So sometimes some crazy experiences like are born from that, and I would be calling my husband, it's like, babe, I'm meeting up with people that are from A, B, or C groups that I've been a part of for a long time. So it's like basically people from the internet. Yeah, I'll send you my location. I hope everything is good. But I do try and do that, make that connection. Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, aside from sort of the obvious of traveling alone and kind of the grueling schedule, is there anything else that people wouldn't think of that's particularly challenging?
The equipment.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes, you can ask for a rider all you want, but you get there, and I had a specific show. I'm not going to mention where because it doesn't matter. But it was crazy energies, because the place was built on sacred grounds. There was a lot of blood spilled and the ancestry. Mm-hmm. So you can feel the crazy energies. So like anything that could have gone wrong went wrong. My speakers were out. The cue on the headphone was out, so I couldn't mix. I'm not somebody that pre-plans their shows. It's just not who I am. So I'll put a bunch of music on a drive that I downloaded, I don't know, 30 minutes before that. And, well, I don't know, just to say, right? And I had no visual cue either. So I was playing blind and deaf.
Wow.
So, it's just those little things that you never know.
Right. And I guess, so maybe walk us through kind of your DJ journey and, how you came to kind of be doing this on a touring basis. Where did it begin?
Well, I come from musical background. I play bass.
Okay.
Started that way, and in Chicago about 12 years ago.
Okay.
I think I always knew that I was going to end up DJing one way or another because I did mixtapes for everybody when I was a kid. It was just a thing. But I met someone at the time, one of my bandmates, and he was DJ, and he kind of showed me the ropes, and then I ended up playing in Chicago and a lot of places, and I think outgrowing where I was going to go in the city. I ended up moving to LA for bass playing and ended up just sticking to DJing. And I've always traveled, so everywhere I go, made it a rule of thumb to look for places to play and just started that way, and it just started getting bigger. And
Got it. So you started as a rock person playing bass? Okay. What kind of rock?
Oh my God, I'm a punk rock type of person.
I kind of vibe that a little bit.
But I always ended up with I want to kill myself type of singer-songwriter vibes, and yeah.
Okay, so then when you first kind of got into DJing and electronic music, was it as a techno DJ or were you?
No, I was playing rock in the beginning. Yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I was playing rock, a little bit of house because I lived in Miami and New York for like 10 years, and there was a lot of influence. And then started progressing from there into everything else. I did a residency with the Roxy and the Viper Room in LA for a year.
Wow, okay.
That was really interesting.
Those are like real like historical names for the rock scene in LA. I feel like iconic names.
Yeah, but I didn't do them as a bass player. I was a DJ for the plays, and so like I would never know what comes in through the door, and it was always like be on your toes and kind of like feel the vibe and the scene, and it was really interesting. It was a really cool time in my life. Yeah.
And then when you talk about traveling and then connecting with people there, so is that kind of, or was that historically kind of the main way that you found gigs when you were traveling? You would just kind of network while you happened to be there and then get gigs, or?
Yeah, in the beginning, I feel like that was the case because I would be in a place for a certain amount of months, and then people would hear, bless you, what I do, and then just start calling, and yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That sounds similar to me and who Sarah Strandberg's story. She had mentioned how initially she was traveling in Germany and I think in Spain and just kind of made friends and was able to acquire gigs, and it kind of snowballed from there.
Right.
Which I guess like really highlights how critical networking is, right? For DJing. Yeah.
Also, it's the person that you are. Honestly, I really truly believe in my core. If you are passionate and like nice to other people, that'll take you a long way.
So I guess coming out of COVID, which we're still in, but coming out of lockdowns and things reopening, kind of what changes have you noticed as you've been out there to play parties, if any?
No, there's tons of changes. I believe people are a lot more self-conscious and self-aware of what they're doing and how they're doing things, and if they're going to go out or not. I don't know, especially within the circle, something really extraordinary, in my opinion, happened during COVID. Like, we had Clubhouse, and I don't know if you're a part of it or not, but...
The app Clubhouse?
Yeah, Clubhouse. Okay, yeah. Which connected so many of... I was talking to Darude on regular basis.
Oh, really? I didn't know that DJs were leveraging Clubhouse.
So this was a whole network of people that throw festivals, in all over the world, and DJs and producers and bouncers and just like anything that was related to the industry kind of like came together and we were all talking about what was happening in each other's cities and comparing. And I think that really created a strong bond and mentality in how to navigate what was about to come, and made a huge difference in, deciding whether we're going to be more careful on stage. I mean, getting a vaccine is each to their own, but I feel like a lot of us took it up on ourselves to be a lot more responsible about that and try not to diverge.
Right. So definitely sort of a change in behavior in terms of people being aware of like the COVID of it all. Yeah. So I feel like one of the things that, and maybe I'm drawing weird connections, right? But so I guess taking it a step back, I feel like after 9/11 happened, I feel like in electronic music, there was definitely an emerging sort of darker sound. We went from like trance and happy house to suddenly like minimal. And I felt like the trend of the overarching music at the time was sort of a reflection of like the political landscape. And that could just be me like totally just pulling it out of my ass, right? But I kind of felt that that's what was happening. And I kind of draw parallels to today where I noticed that the sound of techno that's very prevalent right now is way faster than it used to be. It's a little more sort of angst-ridden. There's definitely kind of a darkness. And I draw parallels, directly to what we're all going through right now through the pandemic.
Right.
I don't know if that's true.
I could, it could be argued because I feel like this trend has been happening in Europe.
You think before? Okay.
Yeah, it's been around 3 or 4 years that people have been starting to progress, and like they're going up to 200 BPM right now. It's crazy, right? But then to the contrary, I went to Detroit and I went to play, and like honestly, Detroit changed my life within like the course of music and where I'm going. But I was talking to all the people that are playing in Detroit, and they were like, "There's something really interesting happening there. They're like taking their techno and house down to 110."
Wow.
And then in the juxtaposition in LA right now, we're going up to
140, 150, yeah, crazy
speeds, but there's always that balance. And I definitely think that it was kind of like a time and place that matched the political and COVID climate that is happening. That it was fitting the puzzle, but I think it was happening way before.
I definitely buy that. But I'd like to coin a new term. I'm going to call it gothno.
New goth.
Yeah, new goth.
Yeah.
Because I feel like so much of the techno these days, and the aesthetic of the parties is very inspired by the goth movements of the past. New goth or gothno. We'll use those interchangeably. So I listened to some of your sets on SoundCloud, and it's definitely a harder techno sound. Is that where you started, or what was the kind of the evolution of your sound from when you started DJing? Because you met with rock,
and punk, and so that's always. And I play bass, so for me, it's always been like, as much as I want to be very melodical, and it's just not within my blood. I am very, very heavy on the sounds that are not necessarily fast. It's not a tempo thing for me. It's more of a hue, a pitch, a vibe.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can go, I love playing minimal techno, and it's just like a sound. It's a pitch when it's on the minimal or like, that's where I live.
So sounds like you kind of have incorporated a lot of eclectic sounds into your sound for today. Is there, you're already kind of a serious touring DJ, but do you still look to other DJs for inspiration? Or are there
100%. Yeah. And not just DJs. I thrive on going out and listening to music in general. Like, that is something that I have to do. That was really difficult during pandemic, to be honest with you. Mm-hmm. I thought, I'm going to take this time and just like produce as much as I can. And no, man, like, not playing shows for me and listening to other musicians play shows was devastating. I could not get into the studio. It took me a very long time to get back to it and to start producing other albums. Thankfully, we got back to it. But yes, no, I look up to so many people. Yeah.
Are there any particular that you would shout out just for the fans to take note of?
What DJs?
Yeah.
Oof. Stage presence is really important to me, and I think Carl Cox and Nicole Mudaber, and Fatima Haji, and Ramiro Lopez. Those are all people that I think are like. I don't think stage presence is something that you really, really can work on. It's something that you either have or you don't. It's your personality.
Yeah.
I think having that passion and the drive to be on stage, just oozing that like.
I think there's definitely like an X factor in terms of like a vibe or an energy that someone gives off. At the same time, there are DJs who I worship, like John Digweed, who have no presence whatsoever. Yes. No offense, John Digweed, you are like the GOAT. But literally, like, he's up there. It looks like he's doing your taxes. Like that's the level of energy that he's giving off when he's playing. And yet, like, he's melting brains on the dance floor. But
I mean, music speaks for itself.
Yes. But I think in this day and age, it's critical, right, to have that presence.
I mean, to each their own, right? Like, if you're an amazing producer, no, not every producer is a DJ, not every DJ is a producer. Like, let's just put it out there. But if you have the ability to do both well, then hey, hats off to you. I really look up to that.
Right.
Production-wise, I think Faithless was my first.
Oh, yeah.
I'm actually doing
Insomnia or God as a DJ?
All of them.
Okay.
And his voice is just incredible, I think.
It's him, it's Sister Bliss, someone else. Rolo? I think there were 3 of them at one point.
Yeah, there was that I know is true, but I don't know. I'm not like, I just know the sound.
Right.
I'm horrible at.
No, it's all good.
Details?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, there's a Zeltek right now. I think is doing amazing. I don't know if
who is
Zeltek.
Okay, I don't know them.
His production is. I think it's a him. I am so sorry. I don't know if it's him, she, they, them. I have no idea.
Shout out to Zeltek in any case.
Yes, amazing producer, female or male, not sure. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of people that are doing just incredible. There's so many. It's crazy the amount of people that are doing well.
Yeah, and it's crazy the amount of music there just is these days. I mean, I don't know if you remember coming up on vinyl and like having to go to the store, and there was a very like finite amount of records to choose from, and now it's a double-edged sword though, right? Because you can go on Beatport or Bandcamp or whatever, and the volume of music to choose from has never been greater, but also the number of like bullshit tracks that you have to sort through to get to something that you like is also greater than ever.
Yeah, track digging nowadays is like, it's become a thing.
Yeah, so I guess that's a good segue into like, what is your approach to like mining new music for your sets?
Going out and listening to other people play, honestly. And also, I feel like I've been embracing a lot of other producers that I've connected with through this, past 12 years. And I really love pushing like homies tracks first and foremost, because they're so inspiring. And if the music fits, then that's the first thing I'll put out.
Okay.
After I started through that, I definitely go and do some stalking and seeing who's following who and why and what type of sound. After I find that, then I go into rabbit holes, honestly. I'm not a big beatport or like, that's not the route usually that I go, because I don't know if it's not wanting to play what everyone else is playing, but not want to be influenced by this is the trend and this is what's happening now, but more of this is what I really inspires me to keep on going, and that's what I want to play. Hopefully it'll move everyone else.
Got it. So, but you're still playing digital tracks though, right? Like MP3s?
Yeah, it's insane. Okay. Like, honestly, if you don't have a record label behind you that's following you everywhere that you go and paying for somebody else to carry your crates
right.
and also the permits to go in and out, I mean, like, if you travel with 2 computers to Mexico, they'll tax you for it. Like, it's
That's
just
true.
not a thing.
Especially now in like the age of COVID, how do you like travel around with like a ton of vinyl?
It's impossible
Yeah.
unless you're Seth Troxler, which
Yeah,
I love him.
or
but
Villa Lobos. I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he gets into the
they
country.
have people
Yeah,
pay for all those arrangements.
Yeah.
And you have to be at that point and level and time to be able to do that. Also, it's really not very practical when you're on stage, the vinyl jumps and
yes, yeah.
'cause there's a lot of people on. You know,
Yeah, how many videos have we seen of like Boiler Room where somebody like spills a drink on the CDJs
Oh
or
my
something?
God.
It's like 10 times worse when it's vinyl. You're like,
There's a lot of DJs that won't allow people on stage with them when they're playing vinyl, and then it's obviously
yeah, that makes sense.
yeah.
But I feel like Boiler Room, for instance, likes to have it so that people are like right crowded up to the DJ booth. So I feel like I think there's a supercut somewhere on YouTube that's like every Boiler Room disaster that's ever happened, and it's just like drink
Can only
spilling.
imagine.
Like there's one I remember like Maya Jane Coles is playing and somebody just like spills like all over her mixer. Just like Speaking of which, sorry, this just brought up a random story from last weekend. Sorry to digress, but I love Maya Jane Coles. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
I went to a party last weekend to go see Kim Ann Foxman play. Do you know her? Mm-mm. She's like a frequent collaborator with Maya Jane Coles.
Okay.
And on the dance floor is MJC, like as like a patron, like watching her friend play. So like, I like freaked out. I was like, all right, like you're a goat. And then this is where it ties in. I spilled my drink on her shoe.
It happens, whatever.
Sorry, MJC. I am the weirdo who came up to you at the he, she, they party, told you you're a goat, and then spilled my beer on your boot. Maybe one day we can have you on and we can hash it out.
She's super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She seemed like super sweet, super nice, but I did feel bad. Like once that happened, I was just like, yoink, like disappearing, just gonna disappear right back into the crowd.
Sure, worse things happen,
Yeah. So like in your travels, I think probably you seem well traveled independently of being a DJ, but together, are there any spots that sort of you would highlight as like these are like amazing party cities?
Oh my God. LA for one.
Okay, yeah, for sure.
Desert parties are my favorite to play. My favorite, like I've played in a lot of places in the world. There's so many places. Paris was great. Spain. It was a weirder vibe though, because there's a lot of younger people out
in Europe or in Spain? Okay.
Spain was like, maybe it was just the parties that I was in, but it was, it was interesting. Mexico, I love playing Mexico. Mexico City is one of those places that people are really invested in what you're doing, and they're truly in love with music.
Okay. So I have a question on that, right? It seems very much to me that as an LA DJ, it's like a rite of passage to do like some Mexico City gigs. Because I see it happen a lot. And so how does that happen? Like, do they come, does the Mexican promoter find you online and then invite you to play? Or is it because you're able to network with people down there?
Honestly, all my gigs in Mexico City have happened from LA, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, most of them.
Okay.
And then once you play, then it's just like a chain reaction of like everybody knows everybody, and then you're playing.
Got it.
A lot of places because of that. But I've been playing in Mexico for a long time too, so I feel like I don't know what's happening today. I feel like a novice every time that I'm going to go play, like, because I see everyone else is playing other parties, and I'm like FOMOing as into like, what am I not doing, or like who's like so many new things,
right,
all the time.
So have you done like the whole Tulum circuit as well?
I'm actually leaving for Tulum tomorrow.
Oh, awesome. To play or to hang?
No, vacation only. I'm so excited.
Are you going to like a festival or just?
No, we're gonna go. My hobby's scuba diving. We have some friends.
Oh, that's why he's
family.
doing that.
just chill. I'm coming back to play a big show for New Year's Eve, and I'm finishing the EP, so things have been crazy.
You're gonna play here for New Year's Eve?
Yeah, I'm playing for Compound.
Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah, you're playing at Compound. Nectar is also on that lineup.
Yeah.
Shout out to Nectar.
Hi. I love her.
You guys are like part of the Fallen Angel crew, or have played for Fallen Angel. Yeah, that lineup looks sick. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do yet for New Year's. I saw that. So I'm like a big like progressive guy. Like I mentioned, Digweed and like Sasha and Digweed are like my guys. And even though clearly I'm dating myself because that sound is not what's in anymore.
You'd be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think Subtract is a long-running party that sort of runs on more of a progressive sound. But I'm on the lookout for something that sort of falls within that for New Year's. So I actually saw that just announced party with DJ3 and Una Doll for New Year's that I think I might hit up.
Yeah, New Year's Eve is a big one to like decide because for the most part tickets are pretty expensive and it's a symbolic thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like who do you want to be that night with?
Yeah, yeah.
More than anything.
It's true. What I've discovered was the last. I hope Emily might be. Emily, our video person, might be texting us right now. Oh no, we're good. Okay. But then I lost my train of thought.
We're talking about parties for New Year's Eve.
Okay, that's right. And it's about who you want to be for the night. That's right. And I was saying what I had discovered was just before COVID. Moontribe, do you know Moontribe?
Yeah.
They threw a New Year's Day party, so on January 1st.
Right.
And I think it started at it was like a 4 p.m. to midnight thing. And I was like, this is the way I want to do New Year's forever. Like
New Year's Day instead of New Year's Eve?
Yeah, instead of New Year's Eve, like just do it the next day and, it'll be super chill. There's no traffic.
Yeah, honestly, I don't know. When we were kids, I grew up all over the world. But I was in Mexico City for a few years of my life. And there was this really beautiful tradition that, all the friends, the parents would get together and the kids, whatever. But it was like a big dinner. And then right at midnight, you would eat 12 grapes to symbolize every month of the year. Uh-huh. And then you'd had the traditions of coming in and out with suitcases to represent travel. And you would wear something yellow to represent all these little things, right? Nuances, whatever. It's just about that. It's you don't have to be at a huge party at all times.
Right.
As long as you're with the right people.
Yeah, it's just about sort of the ritual and celebrating the day. That's true.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Spain. Have you done the Ibiza thing or Ibiza?
I have not. I was scheduled to do Ibiza right before pandemic.
Okay.
I was going to do all the closing parties with my show that I mentioned, FMLA. I was scheduled just to interview all the closing DJs, and I was going to play myself, and that fizzled out. Aww. No, I've only played in Madrid.
Okay. Yeah. Because that's definitely on my bucket list. Have you done Burning Man?
No, Burning Man always happens when I'm on tour. It's such a bummer. We were supposed to go this year and last year. Things obviously did not happen.
Maybe for 22.
Never say never, right?
I feel I feel like touring is probably a better place to be than Burning Man. If you're touring,
I
that's
feel
fun,
like it needs to happen. It's part of our culture and experience. I haven't every single person that's played Burning Man is my tribe, but it's just if things happen for you, they happen. I'm not a big believer that you have to push for things just because, but it is a part of our culture, so.
Yeah. So I've only been once, definitely life-changing, memorable experience. But it's challenging too, right?
It's 10 days of nothing but dust.
Yeah. Yeah. And the dust, the second you get there, your skin is burning. It's so alkaline, you're just so parched. Even if you just scratch yourself, you start bleeding.
The thing that really cuts my attention on Burning Man, I'm sure it's not everyone, but the amount of outfits and preparation that goes in and out with that climate, I'm always wow.
Yeah. I think like I went with my girlfriend at the time, and we each had our own trunk full of like costumes. And I was like, I'm told this is necessary, so that's why we're doing it, like to get in the spirit of things. But also, it just feels ridiculous that we're like showing up with like we each have our own like Tupperware, like rubber trunk that's just like full of outfits. It's funny because I had a friend who was there for that same Burning Man, and he just showed up, khaki shorts, like totally just regular Normcore the whole time, and I was like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And he's like, yeah, you didn't know you can just dress normal, bro? Yeah, bro. And he's like, you look like Aladdin. I was like, well, I'm just getting into the mood. I'm sorry, but
dude, do you?
Yeah, but
you.
Yeah, going forward, I might embrace the Normcore. We'll see.
What do you know? You might stick out.
Yeah, like you stick out more, right?
Yeah.
Or people will think you're a cop. They'll be like, yeah, you'll be asking where the after party is. They'll be like, no, dude. Okay, so you're playing at Compound for New Year's, and as far as your sort of playing within the LA scene, how long did it kind of take you to kind of establish the network and establish the name and all of that?
I got lucky, I feel like, in the beginning because I started playing right away, like I said, for the Roxy and all that. And on the juxtapose of that one, I was playing parties for, maybe I'm going to date myself here, but I did the first Hush events, like the silent discos, and then started playing at Dimax Studios with the guys that run Lamp.
Did you meet Steve Aoki?
Steve, I feel like one of the nights, but it wasn't. I'm sure he doesn't remember who I am now.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. So I played with the guys that run Lamp, the Los Angeles Music Project.
Okay.
And we became really, really good friends, and I ran with that crew for a long time. And then I think I played a lot of venues with a lot of people.
So, you mentioned how you had sort of started more on the eclectic side. Was there an inflection point for you in terms of, okay, now I'm playing electronic, or do you still feel like you play pretty eclectically?
This is going to sound ridiculous, but at some point I got asked to enter a contest for EDM magazine.
Okay.
And they were like, okay, so this is like a pretty progressive house type of thing. So this is what we're doing. And it was pretty early on for me when Electro Progressive was like a thing. Mm-hmm. And I tried to mix in with rock. I always found all these because I was still into that. And after that experience, I feel like my soul died, and I was like, I can't do this.
What was difficult about it for you? Like having to force the rock, trying to force the rock into
it was more of the playing electro progressive is not like you can't just say, hey, I don't know what I'm playing, I'm just gonna go with that. It's a pretty structured thing for the most part. It's like 32 drop. You're changing tracks. It's very technical, right?
Yeah.
So you kind of need to puzzle things in. And I'm just not that person. I needed more creative freedom and started to explore other sounds. And then I started to fall in love with, I think it was tech house in the beginning, and then finding my way to techno, and I just never left.
This is a different tech house than what is called tech house today, though, I imagine. So I'm guessing this was probably around like the aughts, like late aughts.
Yeah, so it's not like the tropical house or
or like because today tech house has like a very distinct meaning. It's like it's almost not even almost. It's very commercial, but tech house of then was a much more sort of underground
Steve Lawler
affair. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Steve Lawler, his New Breed compilation. Do you know that one for Global Underground?
I haven't.
Okay.
Dove into tech house in a very long time.
It's like an old ass compilation. Again, dating myself, but recommend checking it out. Shout out to Steve Lawler. Shout out to Global Underground.
Yes.
Check it out, kids. But yeah, it's funny. Like back on the BPMs, we were talking about how the BPMs have definitely climbed, and there's definitely a generational divide with BPMs. So one of the guys I interviewed a while ago, shout out to Texie, I saw him posting a video of him on Instagram where he's playing at 128, and he's like, yeah, shout out to 128 BPM. It definitely had its place at a particular time.
Ouch.
Ouch, yeah. And I wrote, don't hate the 128, bruh. And he's like, I'm not hating on it. I'm revering it as like a respectable relic of the past. Like, no.
I feel like I don't know. I just think it's a vibe, I'm not going to be playing 150 in the jungle in Mexico. It's just not a thing.
Right. Yeah, like, so the stuff that I listened to of yours on SoundCloud was on the faster end. Is there a range in which you normally play, or?
No, it depends on the party, obviously. If I'm in a warehouse, I've been producing lately somewhere between 135 and 138, which is not crazy, but it's also not turtle pace, I guess. I feel like if you're at that range, you can slow it enough, or if you actually do music, you can go into Ableton, change everything, and then slow it down to wherever you want it.
Yep.
But it's still doable.
Yeah.
Because the biggest change that I did see throughout pandemic is not just the BPM shifting, but the type of music that techno is today. It's not like you could just play whatever track at 150 and it's not that. It's the type of music. It's a genre.
Right. Yeah. You have to like keep with the overall aesthetic.
Correct.
But yeah, so I wanted to get like nerdy and technical for a bit and ask you about kind of like what your home setup looks like and what your preferred setup looks like if they're different.
Well, if preferred, yes, I would have every single synth made in the planet in my house, obviously, but don't have that luxury. My setup for DJing, I have 2 CDJs and a 2000 mixer. Okay. And then RMX 1000.
Oh, you do the RMX too? Whoa, fancy.
In and out. Honestly, okay. I'm not very good at figuring out why things are cutting out. I run out of patience and then I'm just like, okay, maybe we shouldn't use it for this or that. Because I did so much streaming with the show, or sometimes in recordings when you're playing with the RMX, you have to go through the in and out channels. You don't have to, but they sound better than the master in. And it cuts out the sound in a weird way. Okay. And so, like, I'm yet to... Anyone, please, if you're watching this and you have any notes on that, tell me.
People are familiar with signal routing and the Pioneer RMX 1000. Hit up Orly Gal.
Yeah, it has crazy effects. I love it. You can upload your own samples, which I also absolutely love. But yeah, I'm afraid like technical issues on stage are one of those things that I'd rather be safe than sorry, because I've been through so many sorries and safes. So.
And then to the extent that you'll have a writer, do you have specific tech asks?
Yeah, because of all the things that have happened in so many countries, I usually ask for 2000 and up on the CDJ. So I know they're linking. I know there's a visual. If I was doing pyrotechnia, for an example, or something crazy visual, then you have to know what you're going to play, kind of, right? But if you don't, then you have a general idea of maybe.
Wait, I'm sorry. And did you say that you have a specified mixer as well?
I do 2000s and up. So, because sometimes you show up and it's on Allen and Heath, and I'm totally fine with that. It's just no effects, and then your brain kind of have to restart and figure out things again.
Yeah, plus you're dealing with the 4-band EQ versus the 3-band, which...
It's fine. I mean, you figure it out. It's not a big deal. It's kind of part of the rush of what you do. But yes, if it was my way, like, I would like to know either one way or the other what I'm playing for with. Right. I don't like being difficult. I just like to know that things work. Because, like, cue working is essential, and... Yeah.
You could be like Sasha, who I think he demands now 4 CDJ 3000s, Pioneer V10. He has to have an RMX, a dedicated RMX for each deck, which is crazy.
Do you know why riders were made?
For like green M&Ms?
Do you know why though?
No.
Because back in the day, they had crazy heavy pyrotechnia on stage.
Okay.
And they wanted to know that they were paying attention to their needs in order not to die on stage, quite literally.
Oh, it was like to protect their life.
Correct. And so like they would throw in a green M&M just to make sure that they're paying attention to what they need on stage, so nothing burns down and the artist is protected.
Okay, it was a test.
It was a test. And then, it progressed
Now
into what it is today.
Yeah.
I, for the most part, try to just be, rational, 3 CDJs if possible, decent mixer. That's about it.
Do you have stipulations with respect to like accommodations, air travel,
yes,
that kind of thing?
It's just,
it sounds like it doesn't always go well.
It's like they try and put you as close as possible to the venue,
right?
Because they're gonna pick you up. They need to keep an eye on where your safety, pretty much. So it's understandable, but yeah, for the most part, it's nice to know that you're gonna be in like somewhere that you don't feel like you're gonna die.
Right. So like, do you communicate that as like, 3-star and above, or like what is the exact like language of the ask?
That is usually somebody else doing that.
Okay, someone else is running that. Okay, fair. Which I guess is another like segue. How does it work for you in terms of like the ecosystem that supports your touring? So like manager, I assume.
Just one.
Okay.
Honestly, I am so grateful for him in my life. He's been amazing.
And then, like, how did you find the manager? Like, what advice would you give to like DJs who are looking to...
Don't need a manager until you need a manager. You really don't. Like, you don't need a manager. You don't need a booking agent, because, that's something that comes in later on in life.
Right.
When it's absolutely necessary, when you can't handle your own business anymore. Don't worry about it, dude. It's gonna come to you when it comes to you.
Right.
That's my advice.
So just focus. You do you until someone else is ready to do you.
Yeah.
I
mean, yeah.
And not in the salacious way. I totally just lost it.
I'm sorry, dude.
No, I remember what I was going to ask now. So I think, I would guess that you and I are kind of from the same generation of ravers. And what I have noticed amongst the newer generation, particularly those who are trying to be DJs, is how much of the job now revolves around social media.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't think that certainly wasn't the case. If you were an up and coming DJ in the early to late aughts, it was so much more relationship driven than marketing driven.
I think it still is, to be honest with you. Like, as much as we want to say it's not, if you don't have a good relationship or somebody saw you playing and you were hanging out with this or that person in that party, if there isn't that close relationship within your ecosystem, it's really hard to go in.
Okay.
Unless you're looking at really big labels that are just numbers, and then you're just a number to them. And
right.
It's just like, okay, how many people can you pull? How many, like, you know what I mean?
Okay.
It's still important, and it is important to be posting and to be doing things and to more than anything, I feel like, communicate with your audience, right?
Yeah. So, but that's interesting, because you're saying that, and I don't think anyone in the newer end would disagree that relationships are still critical to success. But I think amongst a lot of the younger set that I have interviewed, they're saying that in certain respects, it feels like the marketing and the social media is actually the number one, and takes primacy over music and relationship, or at least that's how they feel.
I mean, yes and no. I feel like if you don't have substance, then what are you marketing?
Yeah. But if you look at like what's going on at like the main stage EDM, right? So much of that is pure.
It's just who you want to be. Yeah. Like, honestly, you can get there one way or another. I'm not telling you it's not important. It's super important.
Right.
We all struggle or enjoy it. Like, I don't know, however you want to see it, and it is important, because people at the end of the day will look at your numbers, or will look at how many people are interested or not interested in what you're doing, because we are selling something, right?
So I guess maybe to kind of take another angle on the question, how do you feel that it has impacted you as a DJ? Do you feel like additional pressure to like post more?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. I was always a very private like person, so not necessarily, and I'm not very much of a selfie.
Look at me, yeah.
It's just not a thing. So I feel like if nothing is really happening with my career that I want to share, and it's also you're drawing a very personal line, right? It's like, where am I? Do I want to post where I'm at, or what stories I'm doing, or what I'm eating, or like I'm not that person. And so I feel like sometimes it's not important, as if like on the other side I hear people like, you have to be posting all the time, all the time, all the time. And
Yeah.
It's a constant struggle for sure.
Which sucks, right? Because it's like a brand new component to your job or to your career that you didn't anticipate or didn't necessarily want to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've talked about it on the show too. I certainly feel it with this, where it's like, all I want to do is record cool interviews and put them out on the internet. But now it's like, oh, there's this whole other side of it that I have to do now with like posting shit.
It's not enough to make music, perform, look a certain, what like you have to be in the game. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm not disputing that one.
Right. And it just raises sort of interesting considerations of like, what do I want my brand to be? What do I want my brand image to be? How do I cultivate that? I think it's gotten more complicated. Not that it wasn't complicated before, but it's sort of, I think social media adds to the complication.
Yeah, I definitely struggle with that a little bit. It's just like, on one hand, you're posting, I post whatever I feel is natural and important and relevant at that point in time. I don't think about, oh my God, is that filter matching the filter that I used the last time?
Right.
And do I have a picture in between? And is the aesthetic like, no, it's just who I am.
Right.
And so I'm sure somebody's going to come down and wipe out my Instagram at some point and say like, yo, this is not on brand. Let's start over here. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. When you have like brand managers come in and you need to refine this, that, and the other thing.
But then there's going to be somebody else doing that, and that's not going to be me. Hopefully I'll still be answering my own messages and saying, hey, I love you. Thank you for, you know what I mean? But
right.
As far as like,
I feel like where you want to be is having someone else posting as you.
Yes, that would be wonderful.
Here I like in Tulum.
But also when you hand the keys to the castle, and I have done that for the show, it's super challenging because you're like, well, I don't know if I would post that, but I guess it's healthy for the brand. You know what I mean? Right.
It's not you. It's contrary to you as a person.
Here are the keys to my castle.
It furthers the marketing goal. That's tough. That's tough. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not in that position yet. You know, maybe someday where I'll have to like make that call.
Man.
Yeah.
Give me a call when you do.
Yeah. So, you know, you had mentioned before we started rolling that you're originally from Israel, which is a country famous for its raving and its raves. Is that something that you did, you know?
In Israel?
Yeah.
No. Funny enough, never.
Interesting.
So I was born in Mexico City and raised in Israel.
Okay.
I'm culturally Mexican, but I don't have any Mexican blood in me. So like it's always been the Israeli circle.
Okay.
But I was there from 13 till 19 and a half, and then I left. And I didn't begin my career till later on. So like it hasn't been.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on my
bucket list.
Yeah.
Because definitely, like I keep hearing like Tel Aviv.
I definitely look up to a lot of artists that are Israeli. Yeah, huge influence in my life.
That's awesome. And I feel like also like whenever I go to burner parties, always like a huge like Israeli contingent.
You know what? It's because we have the those years that we have to be in the army, and there's like this thing within the U.S., for an example, that you know you can't drink until you're 21. Well, we could drink whatever, or do what we wanted, but you always had it in the back of your mind that you have to go to the army for a certain amount of years, and then you let loose and go crazy. And so all that craziness that you see is everybody going to Goa or going to, I don't know, somewhere for years, and then they start school.
Got it.
So it's different. And so that culture becomes like magnified, and that's what you end up seeing.
So did you have to do your service as well?
Yeah.
Wow. So non-music, but still interesting. Like, what was that like? And would you, so I think everyone sort of understands why it's necessary in Israel because, they're very serious about the national defense. So taking that aside, is it something that you would recommend? Because I know a lot of people who've done national service for their countries, they think that every country should do it because they think it does instill like
I agree with that a little bit. I feel like there's a certain amount of urgency that it instills in you that not a lot of people have.
Right.
And so everybody's always alert on their toes. They know,
Right. And then how heavy is that training? So like you're doing the boot camp, you're doing weapons training, like you're firing machine guns, like the whole gamut.
Yeah, the whole gamut.
Dude, that's pretty fucking badass.
Yeah. It's necessary. I don't know. I look up to all the people that do it by choice, which is not us. We didn't have a choice.
Right.
And so a lot of respect to the people that actually choose that path.
And I think super progressive that Israel applies it to the whole citizenry and not just the men.
Yeah.
I grew up in Singapore, and so I'm not a Singaporean national, but a lot of my friends were growing up. And like coming up to high school graduation, a bunch of us just left and went to the States to do college. And then the guys who were citizens, like
had to do that.
They had to do the national service. And I remember it was like very harrowing for them, like nerve-wracking of like, oh, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm going to have to do this thing, and it's going to own my life for 2 years.
For us, it was different because everybody has to. And if you don't do it, it's kind of like looked down on.
Oh, yeah. There's like shame attached.
And there's also like, it's an experience. You meet a lot of people. It's both ways. I don't know. It's bittersweet.
But I mean, it's super dope that the entire citizenry is like trained
a certain way,
firearms and everything. And generally speaking, I think the country does like really cool stuff with like birthright and all that stuff. But anyway, so this has gone by really fast. It's just been like such a pleasure speaking with you and getting a glimpse into kind of your career, as someone who's kind of like maybe a step ahead or a few steps ahead of kind of a lot of the newcomers. So it's good to get a different perspective. And so I guess before we sign off, is there anything you want to plug in terms of your...
Come out New Year's Eve.
Okay.
Very fun.
Yeah. Orly Gal at Compound on New Year's Eve. That's a 6 a.m. party. Gia was on the show a while ago. Nectar, who's been on the show, is going to be there. Check it out. And then we'll make sure that all of your links and stuff are included in the description in the video.
Yeah.
But if you want to just throw people your Instagram handle real quick.
Yeah, it's Orly Gal official.
Okay.
Everything I do for the most part. There's a couple of other Orly Gals out there that are psychiatrists, I think.
Okay. Okay.
just saying.
not Dr. Orly Gal, DJ Orly Gal.
Producer, musician.
Right.
On that note, I have like a few things. I have a track coming out with KD Raw, Kaiser Disco's label in March, and then finishing a couple of my EPs. I'm going to drop one of the EPs New Year's Eve. Not officially drop. I'm going to play it New Year's Eve, which actually has a bit of a progressive sound to it, believe it or not.
Okay, awesome.
So
can I get a promo of that?
I could, yes, privately.
Sweet.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
Absolutely you can. And yeah, that's it. I don't know. I did a movie which was pretty cool. It's premiering right now.
You shot, directed?
No, I was in the movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Sweet. What's the movie?
It's called The Get Lost Losers.
Okay.
It's a band. It's kind of like a Spinal Tap-ish type of movie.
Check out The Get Lost Losers. Check out Orly Gal Official on Instagram. Check out Compound New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to Side Notes. Smash that like button. Hit that bell. And I think that takes care of it. Thank you so much again. This has been nothing but a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you for watching.
All right. Until next week.